This for years. Food and wine and good times is always sponsored by Twisted Tree Steakhouse from the Seiberg family at Watson and Lindbergh on Sunset Hills. They are well headed on to their second anniversary. Business is going strong thanks to Jimmy Cristo over at Twisted Tree Steakhouse, 314-394-3366 or twistedtreesteakhouse.com. Our first foodie is Tony DiGuida. His website, his blog is foodieguido.com. Is that right?
That is correct.
Thank you for joining us here on the Big 550 KTRS. I didn't know you were a foodie. The last time I saw you, you were at Subway.
Well, you know, Al, I got to grab a quick lunch every now and then.
He's an equal opportunity foodie.
I understand, right? You can go high, you can go low, right?
I did their advertising for 17 years, so I got accustomed to their product.
All right. So you're here with a restaurant review and a recipe.
That is correct.
Let's start with the restaurant.
Okay, so the restaurant is a very little spot called Peno Soul Food.
Okay.
I don't know if you've been there. It's right here in Clayton.
Okay.
On Wydown off of Hanley.
Okay.
It's actually a little parking lot. The building faces Westwood, the side street. It's about 2 blocks off.
I know exactly where that is.
Of Hanley.
But I can't picture it.
It's a little 30-seat shredderia, and you sit down, and I first caught wind of it about 2 years ago. Sauce Magazine did a What's New in Town.
Right.
And what caught my eye was that he was making very simple dishes from southern Italy, which Calabria specifically, and my family's from Calabria.
Okay.
And growing up with grandma's cooking, you know, from Italy,
sure,
I always had a hard time eating Italian food. I would never order it out because
it wasn't as good as grandma.
Like grandma,
Right.
you know.
Right.
And over the years, I got over that, and I found
Sure.
better Italian food and enjoyed that. But so I went into Pino's the other day.
Yeah.
And it's 7600 Wydown is where it's at, and they have a large chalkboard, and I sat down. And I was waiting for my financial advisor was meeting me there.
Okay.
And we look at the chalkboard, and I sit down. And I saw Snails Calabrese. Now, Snails is not for everyone.
No,
I
it
understand.
isn't. Yes.
But when I grew up, my grandmother used to get them by the scoop in a bushel, and she'd cook them in red sauce, and they were just delicious. The sauce just takes on the scent of the flavor of the seafood. And so his were presented in a red sauce with some little chunks of homemade Italian sausage, and they were big, meaty escargot, the kind you'd find in a French restaurant, but not in the shell. They were cooked in the red sauce. And they were just outstanding. And I said, I got it. I'm going to have that.
Right.
And when my guest came, he said, what's that? I said, I'm going to do the Snails Calabrese. He goes, that sounds good. You want to split that? I'm like, okay, well,
not really. No, I don't.
I wasn't going to, I was going to put it on a pasta, but I said, okay, we'll do that. So we shared that. And then we ate like kings that day. And then I had, they have calamari there. And the calamari is meant to have tentacles in it. And again, that's not for everybody. And when I go into a restaurant here and they only have the rings of the calamari, that's not calamari.
I so agree with that.
That's just mass, appeal. I said, if the people don't want the legs, put them all on my plate.
So they're doing it right there.
They're doing it right. They're not frying it. They're sautéing it in red sauce. And the key is a very fast saute, and it's very tender.
Let's say somebody doesn't want squid and somebody doesn't want snails. Do they have sort of more traditional Italian fare?
They have wonderful pizzas there. He took over this little shop that was a pizza place. So it's amazing what he's putting out of that kitchen using only a pizza oven,
right,
and a gas range.
And it's Peno's Soul
Peno's Soul Food.
That doesn't sound Italian to me for some reason.
Well, the reason it's soul
soul
food is because in Calabria, it's a very poor area. There's a lot of ravaged, war-torn area.
Right.
And so they don't have a lot of money, and they learn to eat with what's around them. So they've got the fishing ports,
Okay.
and they've got farmland and vegetables. And I remember my grandmother used to pick dandelions in the park, and she'd make a dandelion salad out of it. That wasn't necessarily my favorite.
That explains a lot about you. All right, Peno Soul Food. Where is it on Wydown?
Is 7600 Wydown.
And they do lunch and dinner?
Lunch and dinner. The service is excellent.
How long have they been around?
2 years.
2 years. All
I
right.
was kind of hesitant about talking about them because I didn't want to.
You don't want to let the secret out.
Well, it's a little place. It's a little place, so I suggest you get reservations.
All right, Peno Soul Food on Wydown. All right, what's your recipe?
So my recipe is I have been on a quest to make the perfect bouillabaisse, and at Peno's they have a fisherman's stew that's outstanding. So whenever I see a good cioppino or a fisherman's stew or a bouillabaisse in a restaurant, I'll try it.
What is a bouillabaisse for those of us?
A bouillabaisse is a seafood stew.
Okay.
So it is
delicious.
It is in a soupy base, a fish stock. And the key to it, and I know a lot of people use fish shortcuts because we all work and everything, and you could buy stock in the store. But the key to a good bouillabaisse is you got to make the stock with fish parts, fish heads and tails.
Do you make the stock the same way you do a beef stock?
Pretty much. Yeah. Same way. Same way.
Fish bones and
Fish bones, fish heads,
and guts
fish
and
tails.
whatever else.
So I was visiting my daughter in Tahoe, and she said, because I would make bouillabaisse every Christmas, because it was a tradition in my family, the Feast of the Seven Fishes, and so my mom would make a bouillabaisse because that would put them all in one bowl. So I would have it every Christmas, and I always had a different recipe. And I was visiting my daughter just recently in Tahoe, and she said, "Make me a bouillabaisse," and I'm like, "Really?"
Boom, boom, you're a bouillabaisse.
So I said, "Do you have a good fish store here?" So she sends me to the fish store, and I pick up some whitefish and some lobster and some clams and some mussels, and I need some fish parts to make a stock out of. And they said they don't cut up the fish there. They're not a true fishmonger.
Right.
So they said, "Go try the Mexican market." So I go to this Mexican market, and they didn't speak English, and so I said, "You'll get a kick out of this. We're on TV. I guess I could." I said, "I'm looking for fish," and I wiggled my hands, fish head and tails.
Yes.
And I tap my head and I tap my butt. And the guy looks at me, and I go, "Fish heads and tails." And he's like this. And I said, "Sopa. I'm making sopa." He goes, "Oh, sopa." So he digs into the back of this freezer, and he gives me this catfish. And it's a whole fish, and he goes, "Sopa."
Yeah.
And I'm like,
No.
I guess I could make this. I'm going to throw the fish away, and I'm just cooking it down. I'm going to throw the meat away. So I said, okay. So I made that. So I made this stock with this, and the day before, that's the easy part, make the stock early and get that out of the way. And I put it in the refrigerator. When it came out, it was gelatinous. It had congealed.
That's what it's supposed to do.
Yeah. And I'm like, so that made the bouillabaisse actually.
So the catfish.
The catfish, yes, I took the skins off of it, but I did the catfish, celery, just like you make a regular stock, carrots, and then
so
squeezing it all
was
out.
appreciative of all of that.
She better have been.
She was.
Especially doing the gyrations in the Mexican restaurant. All right, so your recipe for your bouillabaisse is on foodieguido.com.
Yes, it is.
It is also going to be on ktrs.com, and we'll get the link to and from and so on and so forth. So foodieguido.com is the food blog. Tony DiGuida is our guest, and Peno's Soul Food. That's your recommendation for the week.
That is my recommendation for the week.
All right. Yes. Anything else we need to know?
Foodieguido.com. I'm on Yelp, and the reason I'm on Yelp is because I'm always in search of a good meal and trying to help others find a good meal.
Right.
And I've never gone wrong. No matter what city I've been, I pull up Yelp and I can find a good meal.
All right, there you go.
So,
Tony, thanks for coming in. Good
Thank
stuff.
you very much for having me.
Peno's Soul Food. Sounds like a great